spiritual life is also letting myself be supported by the vastness, and also letting the vastness express itself through me.
How I make any decisions now is like, is this feeling like I'm struggling uphill, or is this feeling like it's a beautiful river that I don't need to pedal in? There really is something to living in the flow that has grown my capacity for things to be joyful and to be healthy and to be loving and to be easy.
What I love in both of your understandings of freedom is that it's such an inner game. It has so little to do with anything that's happening outside.
All right, this is exciting today. Hi, Katie. Hi, Jessica.
Hello, Soph. Hello, Jessica.
I'm super excited today because this is a bit of a different format. I met Jessica a few months ago and we were chatting, and Jessica, you were speaking to your interest in people's stories and how much you like discovering people's stories. And I invited you to come and be with us and ask us about our stories. So we're going to turn the tables a little bit and have you kind of lead this show. We're going to have you kind of take over. So Katie and I, what are we going to do? We're going to follow and play. All right.
It's such an honor. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, there's nothing I love more than going deep and hearing, what's most meaningful and what's most joyful in each of our lives. Yeah. So I was thinking last night about what would be fun. And I thought it might be fun to play a game together, a question game. And so I've created 3 different categories based on the podcast: be, play, and love. And you can choose a category and then I'll ask a question about it. And I thought, just to keep things interesting, that if you get a question that you want to pass to the other person first, you can do that to add a little extra twist.
Here, take the hot potato.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Does that sound good?
Well, I appreciate your prep here. It sounds like it'll be really fun.
I've been thinking for the past few weeks about if I could ask you to anything, what would it be? So yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's kind of
nice. Katie, when I was asked, I said, everything goes. We can ask. We're willing to talk about both. Katie and I have.
Yeah, that's true. I have a no secrets policy.
Beautiful.
Great. So we'll see what unfolds. Okay. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first, and I want to go for play.
Okay. Here's the first question. What do you help bring out in each other? What do you help bring out in each other, Katie?
Well, the first thing that occurs to me is that I think I tickle Sophie. So I think I bring out a little bit of the kind of for her, and my sense is that what I think Soph brings out in me is again more of rather than I can be serious and on purpose. And Soph brings out what if we just stepped over here? What if we had a different rhythm? And what if you opened up this window? So opening up different possibilities just with your presence, but then also with the way that your mind works.
I love that. Yeah, you definitely, Soph, you have such a side to you that's like, let's explode these narrow paradigms, like, let's look at this differently. Yeah, I'm wondering, when you talk about tickling, is that helping to bring Soph to an edge, like a growth edge? Or is it more just kind of riling things up a little bit more? Like, can you say more about tickling?
I like to find what amuses Sophie.
This is fun.
Yeah, almost like a mischievous instigator is kind of what I hear.
Yeah. Yes, because I think both of us are very professional and on purpose, and we get things done. And so I like to bring a little bit more of a kind of a pillow fight, or a tossing energy. And not always, but I think that that creates some more fun, more play.
Yeah, it does. There's nothing better than when we can weave together like deep wisdom and playfulness,
Mm.
and like all of those different sides. Yeah.
If you were to look at a dictionary about like deep, like meaningful wisdom and playful, you would literally see Katie's face. That would be how we define those two words together. So you couldn't be more at home with that. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for saying that, Katie. That was really beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to do the next one.
I'm going to go with love.
Okay. I have two questions in each category. So to think about what I want to ask you first. What have you changed your mind about in love relationships?
That is a really profound question, actually. I would the second you said that, I went from a relationship should be a place of learning with a lot of suffering to a place where I could be a lot of learning, but a lot of fun. I would say that's the biggest shift. If you were to look at my trajectory, there was a moment where I was like, yeah, I could learn from anyone, but some of them are not so fun. And I dropped that. I would say that was the deepest transformation for me.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, my own relationships, and I'm thinking about how probably years ago I thought that it would be a little more ponies and rainbows and we would just like waltz off into the sunset together. And the beautiful relationship that I'm in has been filled with so much growth. And I'm wondering how you infuse the fun. Like, how do you really do that in day to day alongside the growth?
I've become more fun myself, I think. I think some of what Katie was describing, I let myself be tickled a lot more. Well, as a great example, yesterday, my boo and I had this vision of creating a sphere of concrete, a 2.5 feet large thing, which we will put a picture in the notes because I think it's worth seeing. And I had this vision of doing it, and I brought it up to Wally, my love, and I said, I really want to do that for the yard. And he went, okay. And we started this adventure that's been a couple months of this ball that is just yesterday was moved to the yard. And we laughed so much that we learned a lot. There was a lot of like, oh, if we do the ball solid, that's going to be 3,500 pounds. So let's do it hollow. And how do we do it hollow, large sphere? And so we learned a lot, and learning, being creative together, enjoying each other's, like he's very structured. He's a pilot, by kind of training. And so safety and size and measures, and like he can follow a recipe to a T. I would rather die. So we are good. We are a good partnership that way. And so he was measuring the thing and he was doing the thing that I really don't like doing, which has stopped me from doing some of these fun things in the past. Is like, I don't want to be measuring concrete ratio to water and paint. But because he loves doing that part, I get to do what if we do this? And what if I put, aluminum on top of it to see if I can mess up the texture of it and all the things that I ended up doing. And so the partnering in the creating something together, and I know, Katie, I'd love for you to add. Can we add to each other's questions? We can.
Of course, we can do anything.
I would love to hear a little bit more about that, because certainly watching you and Gay all the years that I've watched you two do relationships, if there ever was play and fun and being together, that is there. So for us, it has been allowing ourselves to be creative and then support each other in both of our creativity, I would say, has been one of the big ways that occurs. That is how we learn. That's how we play. That's how we laugh. And funny enough, it leads to deep connection. That is where better sex, better communication, better fun cooking together. It's all the same. This is really is how we show up for any one of those things, including some of it, like the ball that we were building wasn't doing what it was supposed to be and do. And we kind of ruined something. And he was into we made a mistake. And I was into like, how do we transform that and do something even more interesting with the mistake, which was that was even interesting, to kind of confront our ways when things go wrong, and to practice that in the midst of doing it was incredibly fun.
You know what I'm hearing too? I love that. So I'm hearing like a sense of being game to try,
Yeah.
that sort of kind of exploratory, adventurous,
Yeah.
that keeps such a sense of aliveness. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, it was interesting because in my framework, like the way I approach things, I can work on it until I like it. There's no ending until I decide it's where it needs to. The only phase I recommend, if anyone plays with concrete out there, just the sealant. Once you put the sealant, it's really not easy to get it off. So that's a little bit of okay, this is it. But until then, we added colors, we added fiberglass, we went until it was like, I like where it's at.
Yeah.
And so therefore there's really no mistakes. You just keep going until, and I don't know, Katie, maybe you can add to that, but I feel like that's true in relationships. If something is not where we like it to be, we keep going. We keep going until we like it. So I think people sometimes fall short of like, okay, something went wrong, I stop. It's like, no, something went wrong. I don't even know what wrong would mean. In this case, we had no particular, I didn't know how to make balls in concrete before. So I just was exploring and experimenting. So how do you see that play out, Katie, in your world?
Well, what I saw you doing with your hands, I think really illustrates it, that you're doing what I call tossing.
Yeah.
Is that, and what I'm hearing is the open-endedness of that, so that the intention is to explore and to grow and to connect. Whereas in a lot of relationships, the intention is to be right, is to be in control, and that closes down the tossing. Like, well, how about this? Well, okay, let's. And the other thing I'm hearing is that you go with.
Yes.
So rather than going, we have to plan everything. We have to know what's going to happen, that you step out into the unknown, with a sense of, well, let's just see what happens. And that sense that I also get is that you're connected with each other in the exploration.
Yeah.
Is that, like if, because you have this sphere. So imagine if that were a ball and you basically were tossing that back and forth. Well, how about this? And how about that? And I want to go this direction. And then it allows both of you to be co-creating and for this other thing to happen, which is the magic of your connection. Might go, oh, we could do this whole other thing.
Yes.
That neither of you would have thought of by yourself, but as you're playing together, this whole third thing. And the whole thing about this is the joy of connecting and the joy of exploring together, not the thing itself. Although that's great, you have this sphere that you can celebrate and enjoy, but you can also remember how much fun it was making it.
Yes. And they were incredible moments. I remember one night we were missing this one thing. And, when you're in the juice of doing, we were like, oh, if we had we look at the online and the store closes at 10, it happens to be 45 minutes away and it's 9. And we got in the car and we're listening to this book we love and we're like racing against the clock a little bit and we run in and Home Depot is not so happy to see you walk in at 5 minutes to 10, but we do, and it's very gracious, and we find the thing and we drive back and we have this. It's just, there were so many moments of tossing. It's funny because with a 350-pound ball, you're probably going to not want to be tossing that, but the energetic of it was very much, all right, you grab it, shall we do it? And the fact to be with a partner that is willing to drive at 10 o'clock at night to go get my fiberglass to finish my ball, I have to say, I have moments like I teared up. Like I would be doing my thing and I would look up and he's like sending this thing, that's going to fit and it's just be like, oh, what an act of love, because I'm not.
Well, that's love in action for sure.
Exactly, love in action, because I'm not sure making concrete sphere was his thing, but doing something with me is. So somehow, yeah, it was incredibly joyful. Is one way to see it.
Yeah, you were in it together. Even though he wouldn't have maybe initiated, let's make a concrete sphere. Yeah.
And the other thing to add to that that's really, really beautiful for me is completely accidentally, quotation mark, the ball is 350 pounds. And my personal journey, as you both have heard of, probably some, was that I was 350 pounds myself.
Wow.
I know, I know. So when we were wheeling it, we literally were rolling it yesterday to put it in the back of the house where now it's found its, for the moment, its resting place. And we put it down and I was like, wow, this is what used to be my body, quite a metaphor to be in the yard like that. It was very beautiful.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So many layers to it, right? Yeah. Katie, how would you answer this question? I'm curious.
I can't remember what the question was because we've got.
I've got it right here. What have you changed your mind about in love relationships?
Wow. That's it. Over 45 years, lots. But I would say the main thing that I've changed is that love is about being able to completely be myself in the presence of someone else and to enjoy and celebrate them expanding their presence with me. And so we've had many things that have opened up and and old patterns that we've let go of, so that there's just this flow of love and harmony now that occurs. And then when some a feeling comes up, then that just moves into the flow of love and harmony, and the openness to be completely unedited.
Yeah.
So to be able to just express and have, I'd say one of the big things that switched for me is that I would get my sense of loving myself through Gay. So like from his approval, or if he, I did something really good and he kind of, whoa, yeah, or I go, yeah, and then I'd kind of adjust myself. And so that my source of approval now comes entirely from within me.
That's beautiful. Can you say more about the other person expanding their presence as you show up authentically? Like, say more about the expanding presence. I want to hear more.
Well, my experience is that people are attuned to the reception that the other person is giving them, but usually not consciously. So we're adjusting through our mirror neurons and through, heartbeat and all of these. And if, and as I've released fear, and fear that disconnection, so that I'm able to let my life energy flow freely, I create safety with my presence, rather than you have to constrict yourself in a certain way in order to be with me. And the sense of responding, being able to respond without any kind of editing, because I can hear fear and I can see it, and so so as I've released fear in me, I can feel how that creates a receptivity. That one of the main things that I've experienced with Gay over the years is I experience him letting me in. I know, because he's a big alpha male, and which is wonderful, and he still has that, and he also has this kind of softness. So like just the other room, one of the cats is on him right now. They're usually all on me, but now one of the cats is on him, and to me that's really a symbol of his availability to have both strength and softness. And so I think the qualities that we both have woven, like I've gotten more of his being able to download directly from the universe, and he's gotten more of my being able to sense into other people's feelings and be able to interpret those in my own self, and body awareness. He also 'cause I'm a mover. Well, I would think, he was the thinker, I was the mover, he was the, and I was the feeler and he was more of the logic. And so we've really blended a lot more of those. So we just have more of, like, if playing on the piano, first we played chopsticks, and now we can do duets together, and one person can take the lead and then the other person can add to it. So we have just so many more possibilities of enjoying the flow of love and harmony.
Um,
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that happened, Jessica, years ago, we were friends maybe a couple of years, so I don't know, 20 years ago. And Katie had an event in LA. Can I share?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
He asked if she could stay at my house because she was coming from Ohio to do this event. And I remember us laying in bed Gay wasn't with us. It was just the two of us girls, doing a pajama, night in bed chatting. And Gay called. And so I said, like, I'll leave, the two alone. And she was like, no, 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 stay. It won't be very long. And so I'm sitting there. Well, the two of them are talking. I was single at the time. I'd just come out of a absolutely miserable relationship with a bozo, as I've learned to call them. And I heard the two of them talk. I don't think you were on speaker, so I didn't hear what Gay was saying, but the energetic was like opened my eyes and heart and soul like nothing. I think it's from there that I probably generating the beauty that I now am in. There was the sexy, there was the funny, there was the supportive, there was the being present, there was and you had been together by then already 25, whatever it was. And I just remember when you hung up, I just had this like, wow, this is what water feels like. Like I've been hearing about water all along, but this was really being in that pool with you guys. That was just magical. So it's what,
Mm.
so it was like, I want what she's got, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that story. And I feel like sometimes that live example just like lands so deeply in us and reminds us of something we already know is here for us. And then we can step into more deeply. Yeah. I'm just saying, as you were talking, I was feeling that flow, and something that I've been just unfolding more deeply into in my own partnership too was like releasing this old pattern of, I need you to act a certain way so I'll feel safe, right? That I didn't even know that I was holding. And it's just revealed itself in such a beautiful way that that's old stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a juicy question.
Yeah. Asking for a friend. Okay. Let's see. I think, Katie, it's your B, play, or love.
Well, I think B. Let's go with B since we've, I think, looked at the others.
Okay. So this is, I listened to a bunch of your old podcasts, and you talk about spirituality in all sorts of ways, but I don't know if I've ever heard the two of you like really describe your spiritual life, your own personal spiritual life, and your spiritual connection. So I would just love to hear you speak to that a little bit. How would you describe your spiritual life and your spiritual connection?
Well, the first thing that occurs to me is that I don't consider my spiritual life any different than my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, my body, my interactions, but I can tell you about some of my practices. So I have a meditation, a twice daily meditation practice that I've been doing for over 40 years. And I would say that is at the center of both my own life, but also my life with Gay, because when we're in the same place at the same time, we meditate together. And I would say that's a cornerstone of our energetic, our experience of oneness, experience of unity with life, but also letting life move through me. So that what I consider spirituality is that the universe can move through me and use me. And when I'm doing that, my experience is that Katie, moves out of the way, and there's just this. It's not even channeling. I don't like to use that word, but the voice of the universe using me moves through me. And it's the most delicious experience. I have this when I'm working with people, because I can tune into what's wanting to be expressed or opened up to, and so it is. I would say that that spirituality is so close to loving what is and loving my experience in the moment and being able to be with it. So I think of love as being in the same place with something like my feelings or something that's going on, but that my spiritual life is also letting myself be supported by the vastness and also letting the vastness express itself through me.
Ooh, I just got such chills. Yeah, that's beautiful. And there's such wisdom. There's such wisdom in that which is beyond us. So when we can just allow it to flow through, I was just visiting a family member during a visit that had some challenges to it, and that was my prayer. Like just allow spirit to flow through me in these interactions. Yeah, that's really beautiful, Katie.
Sure.
Thank you. When you meditate, what are you doing in your meditation?
Well, I practice TM. So, and it's really great for me because I'm such a mover and a feeler. And so having a mantra has, really been a touchstone. They talk about in meditation back to one, like if you're counting your breath, that, that sense of that there's a home. I can come back home anytime, and, no matter what's going on around me. And it's been, um, I can really tell the difference in my life before meditation and after meditation. Just a huge, huge difference. And that sense of having a daily practice, I think really gives a sense of that I'm supported by all that whole tradition, of thousands of years of people inquiring, about why are we here and what's it all about, and and use me for a higher purpose, and so being in that dialogue. So no matter what else is going on, having that, and sometimes it's very restful. Sometimes there's a lot of stuff going on. But one of the things I learned in meditation that's been entirely useful is the only mistake that you can make with meditation is not to do it.
It's good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think too, just about the wisdom of a higher perspective, like when we can zoom out a little bit, a lot can come in that's so much beyond what our mind could ever think.
Yes, and there's also a whole sense of, in my work, as above, so below. But as if I see something I don't like out there, I've really learned to go, okay, how is that reflecting something in here? And I give my attention to that, and lo and behold, it shifts out there in the world. And so that whole sense of I don't have to make something happen and use force. If I change something in me, then the whole world changes.
Right. Soph, do you want to take this one, or do you want your own?
Oh, I love it. I'd love to. It's funny, as I was deeply listening to Katie, I didn't want to, what am I going to say? Like, I really wanted to be with what you were saying. But when you first asked the question, Jessica, I was reminded of this moment, which I don't know if I remember from it happening or I remember from talking about it happening later in life, but I was very little because I remember I had a diaper on, so very, very little. And my parents were part of this golf course where there was a place for the kids. You could leave the kids and go play golf for the day. And one day, I guess, they finished golf after the thing was closed and I was left. It's very safe, the closed environment. Like I wasn't left on the street, but I was left in a sandbox. And the sky was becoming very red. The visual I have is like this very, very red and orange and bright and beautiful. And I was sitting there, and the memory I have was that I heard, "You're okay. You're going to be okay. I know sometimes it's going to look a little crazy out there, but you are going to be just fine."
Mm.
And I would say that that's my spirituality. Like I'm a Gemini. I've had many shapes and forms. I respect so much that, Katie, you've been on the same rhythm, twice a day with your, meditation. I wish I was able to do that. Maybe I will be at some point, but my life is more, I've not been able to stick to things like that more than a couple of years at a time. And so I trust myself. I live a very loving life. I went to a meditation retreat once, and we came down from the mountain, a group of us, and I was so in my heart, and I was just walking around and vegetables and whatever that was. And I turned around, and the people I was with at the retreat, they were arguing with the dude that was, not giving them the whatever they wanted for their coffee or something. And I sat there and I was like, I want my meditation to be that I stay in my loving in the middle of the supermarket when things are a little crazy. My practice is I come to my heart and I love the people. I say that's a beautiful practice, just not as regular and it's not the same, but yeah.
It's also a very a well-established and honored tradition. And in the Oxbow tales, they talk about going out to the mountain to meditate, but the ending where you really prove your spirituality, they call it in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So can you be just what you were describing? Can you bring your heart to the marketplace, or do you start arguing with the guy about the vegetables?
Exactly. And it's beautiful because if I look at the trajectory of my life, I mean, I know the Dalai Lama responded, that his religion is kindness. And I would definitely say that my practice, my spirituality is my goodness and my attempt to always choose, the highest road I can. And it really moves me to speak it in those terms because it's a simple practice, but I definitely will choose in every moment, like, what is the most loving thing I can do right now? And by doing that, I do well. I do well with my daily, my friendships, my body, my creativity, my work, all the things tend to line up really well. I think that I live that way from that place.
I can attest that you do from over here.
Thank you. Sharing it with you is one of the easiest things I ever do in my life. I don't ever have to work at loving you. There's zero efforting in that. So, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing that's beautiful for me is that I've created a life where what is not loving doesn't need to stay. It's like if something is causing all this chaos or this drama or this thing, I can step out. I really don't have to. I'm not committed to participating in things that are not of loving. It doesn't mean I don't stay with, I have grit. I have grit. I have a lot of grit, but yeah.
Well, there's a clarity about what's in integrity for you in that.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the story that you told about the wedding you were at and, making decisions, whether to take care of yourself or, like all of that, just this continual process of looking in and feeling into what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right for me. What else I was feeling as you were talking? It's like when you say dropping into your heart space, I have such a felt a sense of that. And I think of myself like in those moments when there's a lot going on up here and I can take a breath and drop into my heart, like everything becomes so clear.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I'm curious for each of you, what are your thoughts on predestiny?
You mean like fate? Like it was my fate to have this? Well, what was just occurring to me is that when I met Gay, we had this interaction when we very first met where we recognized each other. And it was absolutely, my sense was, because it upended my whole life. But that recognition was so there. And we had lots of stories like he had tried to find me and he almost found me. And then so that's my felt experience of what you might call fate. But I don't have a position about fate, but I just knew, no, because, someone said, what are you doing? And I said, well, this is permanent, this connection. I don't know what's going to happen or where it's going to go, but it's permanent.
Yeah. Yeah. There was like a recognition,
Yeah.
recognition. So I love that.
Someone gave me this weekend actually a little metaphor that I really liked right about that. And we were talking about free will and do we choose or is it chosen for us and the story that came out of our conversation was a bit like a GPS. Like it lets you take a right turn or a left turn or an up turn, like whatever you want to do. But eventually it's a little bit like, all right, now come back to the road. Okay, you can go back to take your own streets and do your own thing. But at some point, the GPS kind of realigns and
Mhm.
that there is more, it's more difficult if you choose the road that was not the one that's aligned. Like I would call it maybe more aligned than fate necessarily. But I love this idea that if I go rummage over there, like there's always something that's like, all right, and here's, I mean, this is the destination. So you can go right or left all you want, but here we are. This is the road. So I like that. I like visualizing there is a road in which I feel I'm in the flow.
Mhm.
When I start noticing that and listening to that, which I would say is mostly how I make any decisions now, is like, is this feeling like I'm struggling uphill or is this feeling like it's a
Mhm.
beautiful river that I don't need to pedal in, And if it, and when I do, but most of the time, the only place I think I don't do it is on the pickleball court still. I don't know why. It's a place where I just like, I fight it out. But other than that, I really, maybe I make a decision right now that I can stop doing that. How about that?
I was going to say, and that's what might happen to your pickleball game.
Now, I brought this consciousness I'm speaking of right now from to that. So, but what I was going to say is the second something to resist, and it's not like I don't work hard. Like I do the work. It's not like, oh, it's just hard, I'm going somewhere else. I know the sound or the
Yeah.
feel I get when something is like, now I'm pushing, like I'm pushing harder than life wants me to.
Yeah. I think you're saying something so very important about there's an essential, is it easeful, easy, aligned? Is there a flow, resonance? But the whole thing, if it's starting to feel gritty and I go, wait a minute, maybe it's timing,
Yeah.
maybe it's wrong timing there, but I will reassess, like take a breath and go, okay, now could we go a different direction or make a different choice here? So moving more that there's such a myth that life is hard, you have to work hard, relationships are hard, oh, the relationships are really hard. So the all of that mythology, that if you're not having a hard time or working or struggling, you're probably overlooking something. And what I found is if it's not in ease and flow, then I need to reassess that I actually can choose what Gay and I call easy world. I'm willing to have things be easy.
One of the depth of what you're saying for me also ties to something you and I talk often about, which is this. It took for me. It took rising my ability to love myself because when I live my life in the flow, oof, it is delicious. Like you better be done with the. I'm committed to life being this horrible thing I have to go through because there really is and God no, both Katie and Gay have taught me so much in that space of growing my ability to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And for the duration, it's like when I met them, I would be miserable most of the time, and they would be these like glimpses of happy. And now I'm happy all the time. I mean, really a lot of the time. And then I have these glimpses of like, okay, this is a little more tension. Let's see what that is. Or this is making me sad. This is not like I didn't take a pill and I walk around like a lunatic. I feel my feelings, but there really is something to living in the flow that has grown my capacity to for things to be joyful and to be healthy and to be loving and to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
I love this so much. And I think, this is such a big time on our planet right now. Like so many folks are being called into such expansion. I want to hear more about when you know that you're in a moment of shifting, growth, whatever you want to call it, how can you choose easy world? Is that what you called it, Katie? Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it look like to allow ourselves to expand in an easy way? Can you say more?
Uh, Generally, if it's not easy, I'm either in fear. I'm operating from fear, and so in fear, I can't think very well, and the world looks like it's my enemy, and other people look like enemies. So I move in. That's the first thing I'll go is I must be scared about something. And so I let myself move, do what I call fear melters and open up. And then I go, oh, yeah, I felt scared that you weren't going to like this, or I'm not going to be able to do this. So, and when then I express about the fear, then I can go, okay, am I willing to, am I willing to have this be easy? Because a lot of us get our fuel from pushing against. We're getting a lot of those messages now, like fight back, and we need to, we need to have a presence where we're rigid and fighting back, but which is fighting back is fear.
Oh.
So we're just perpetuating the fear. And so when I shift to here's how I want to engage, or here's where I want to say no. So saying no, I think, creates an opportunity for saying yes. So there's probably something in there that isn't expressed or that hasn't been acted on. But when I move out of fear, I can find that. And then when I open up to that, then I get into alignment again. So it's almost always what I would call an integrity move, because integrity is your wholeness. And if I'm not feeling that wholeness, then I look at, is it a communication or a feeling or somewhere where I'm not taking responsibility? And, then I just go ahead and interact with that. And then poof, just like a rainstorm, off it goes.
Yeah, this is so good. And I'm hearing like my own inner integrity, what needs to be said, like, how can I really show up as my full self? But then also that question, am I willing to let this be easy?
Yes.
That's so good.
Yeah, because just even asking that question is like taking a breath. Oh, okay, because I'm on that track, and it can be easy.
Yeah. So much.
We are coming to an end, Jessica. I don't know if you have a question that you want to, maybe a quick one to wrap us up, but I can't believe this has been like a 15-minute conversation. I literally looked up. I thought it was going to be 20 minutes. It's been 45. This is so juicy. This is really fun.
Yeah, it's been an utter delight. Let's see. What do I want to end with? I'd like to end with how each of you define freedom. What is freedom to you? And maybe has it changed over time?
I would say freedom for me is that I can choose. I'm able to choose. I'm able to choose my actions. I'm able to choose what I'm giving my attention to. I'd say that's really the big one, that I'm able to not only choose where I'm putting my attention, but I'm able to let that choosing take me into the flow. So it's really about choosing and going with, and choosing and going with. And so it's being on a ride that I've chosen and then really enjoying the ride.
There's so much empowerment in that, and so much also just like open palms, like, let's see how fun this can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
There's so many roads I could take, but the first one that hit me was my relationship with food. Because for so many years, I literally, the visual I have is I had this thing around my neck at all times, every meal, deal with the thing, deal with the addiction, deal with the in between meals, think about when am I going to be able to eat more sugar? And, there was so much, I was taken over by that thing. that now to be able to actually had dinner a couple of nights ago, and my favorite dessert used to be my favorite dessert on the table. And I was like, don't do that. Not like there was zero pull. It was so calm and beautiful. And oh my God. And the choosing that, Katie, you started with on your response, the fact that I can choose to eat a certain way or not eat a certain way. And that is, to me, that's ultimate freedom, of course.
Oh boy, yeah, I bet thousands of people can relate to that, including me.
Yeah. I mean, that was my prison. That really, I mean, I'm sure there were others that, came out of other activities I might have, but my man was food my jail cells. So there's not one day that I don't experience this joyful, wow, I can absolutely, I don't like the food. It's okay. I don't need to eat. Like it's like to be so simple now. Makes me want to cry.
Yeah. And what I love in both of your understandings of freedom is that it's such an inner game. It has so little to do with anything that's happening outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's great freedom in that also, that I don't have to have circumstances be just right in order to, have an experience of wholeness.
Well, was that fun?
Thank you both.
We will do that again. This was really delightful.
Oh, thank you. This is really delightful. And thanks so much for the quality of your presence, Jessica.
I discovered things about that's my beauty. One of my favorite things with my friendship that she will say something. I'll be like, "What? Like I've known you so long. We've talked so many times, and yet there's like yet one more layer." I love that. Thank you for gifting us that, Jessica. That was really beautiful.
Thank you both. It was just an utter joy. This is the stuff I want to talk about all day long.